Hey everyone, Trickster Shadow here. I'm a variety killer main with over 7,500 hours in DBD, and today I thought I would make a video kind of chiming in on this whole Swift discussion. This all started, if you don't have Twitter, this all started, True Talent started talking about how like Swift is unbalanced and how Swift's competent Swifts are OP for the game, and he's prosing some changes like adding in a debuff to where they heal and do gen slower if they're in a swift, and then it's like a stacking penalty the more people that are in a swift. And it's quite the response to it. And I thought, since I'm a killer main, I play every killer. I do a lot of builder quests. I've pretty much played every single build that exists in the game, on every single map that exists on the game, on every single killer that exists in the game. And so I have quite a bit of experience with playing the game and even playing against good teams. I played in tournaments before. I like BOTB, Best of the Best is probably the most known tournament that I've played in. And so I've gone against like the god tier Steel Team 6 squads. And I just wanted to offer my 2 cents. And of course, like I'm not trying to like go after true talent. I've seen a lot of toxicity and negativity. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to like tear him down or slander his name or whatever. True Talent's actually a really good killer. I actually, and I don't know if it's a waste of time or not. I'm gonna imagine it wasn't a waste of time, just for the sake of my own sanity. But I actually went through and watched a majority of his past 70 games as killer, and I wrote down the results if it was like a 3K or 4K with how many gens left, if there was a hatch escape, yada yada. And I went through and I recorded all the results. And on average, True Talent gets a 3, it's like a 3.03 kill average. And if you don't count hatch escapes, because obviously he could slug and play a little bit more sweaty and counter hatch escapes, it goes up to like a 3.36, which is amazing, especially considering like I assume that True Talent himself would even agree with this. He doesn't play at like the highest level that he possibly could because he's responding to Twitch chat, he's interacting with his stream. He's not playing to like how he playing like a tournament. And so having a like a 3.36 kill average, like excluding hatches, by just playing casually, just playing how he normally does and streaming, that's an amazing stat to have. That's like the top like 1% of gameplay. And so he's not a bad killer by any means. But I kind of wanted to make a response to this. I was considering like watching through his gameplay and like commentating over his gameplay and providing my insight there because I think I could legitimately help provide a little bit of insight, but I know that probably wouldn't be received well, and I don't want to create any drama at the end of the day, and I don't want to like rile people up just like, oh, Trick Shadow like dunking on him. I don't want any of that. And so I'm not going to react to his gameplay unless he wanted me to. I feel like I could legitimately provide insights that he may not be thinking about, or he may be thinking about. I don't know. Uh, and I feel like it could be helpful. It could be constructive, but I'm not going to do it at the end of the day unless he wanted me to. So instead, I'm going to talk about a couple things, and then we're going to get into what I would kind of like talk about on a video, like if I reacted to his gameplay. So first off, what I noticed through like the stats of watching him and all these red out or just like games I didn't even like consider looking at just because there's like a DC or like as a build request or something like that. One thing I noticed is that when True Talent loses games, he loses games pretty hard. And so I'm assuming this plays into the mentality of like Swift is OP because I'm assuming like such like having such hard losses is like 4K, 4K, 3K with the hatch escape, 4K, 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 and then he has 0K. And so I'm assuming, or like 4K, 4K, and then 1K, 3 man out. I'm assuming like this goes into like the 4 man Swift or like a Swift is OP mindset, which makes sense. Which is part of the reason why I did this. I wanted to try to like understand like where he's coming from and try to like figure it out because like he's having these thoughts for some reason and there must be some basis for this. And so what I wanted to talk about is the whole idea, first off, with wanting to nerf survivors just as a blanket, just nerfing all survive with friends, and why that's a bad idea. And so, first off, I wanted to explain the reason why it'd be a bad idea to nerf all survivors. Here, let me pull up my epic pin. The reason why it would be a bad idea to nerf all survive with friends, one, you don't want to punish people for playing with their friends. That's at the end of the day, that's what a lot of people are trying to do. Most people are trying to do is they're just trying to play with their friends. They're not trying to like ruin your day as killer. They're just wanting to play with their buddies. And two, if the developers touch survive with friends, which they're never going to do, that would hurt the game because this game, one of the big reasons, besides I think like Twitch advertising as much as it has, like with streamers and like content creators and YouTube, one of the big reasons why this game did so well is because of the Survive with Friends feature. If this game didn't have Survive with Friends, it wouldn't be nearly as popular. You can look at some of the stats that have previously come out before about how, like, I think it's like party size in DVD. Let's see if I can quickly pull it up. Pull up D&D. But like, there's been stats before. Yeah, here we go. That have shown that like the party size in DBD, like over 50% of people are playing solo queue. So over 50% of people are just like playing by themselves. And then you have like 25 to 30% are playing in a duo queue. And then I don't know if this would be like 10% are playing in like 3 mans, and like less than 5% are playing in 4 mans. And so if you tried to penalize people for playing with their friends, you'd be alienating half of the player base, which you don't want to do. You don't want to alienate really even like 1% of the player base, because that's not good for game health. And so I don't see them ever like nerfing Swifts by giving them debuffs or anything like that. And even if they did, even if the developers thought it was a good idea to nerf Swifts, it wouldn't be necessarily a good idea, because the reason why it wouldn't be a good idea is because you can imagine like with Swifts, like imagine like this is like a skill bar for Swifts, and are not necessarily like skill, I guess like efficiency, like how efficient they can be. And like currently, like it's up here is like the strongest they can be. Like a 4 man Swift playing as efficient as they can be with all like a really good perks and good map, they can be 100% efficient. And then the bottom level of it is like even people playing at their worst, they can be like this efficient. They can be like 25% efficient, even if they're playing at their absolute worst. They go down immediately. Nobody has gens or whatever. If you nerf Swifts in a blanket way, you're going to make it to where, yeah, the hardest games that you play are going to be a little bit easier to win, because the potential of survivors is going to be less. But you're not only making it to where the potential of survivors is less by giving it like a debuff to everybody, you're also making it to where the potential of the easy games that you have, to where it's just it's the 4 people that are not really that great at the game. They play a lot of the game, but they're not that great. They manage to they reach rank 1 because like they play enough, but they're not like great players. You make it to where like their minimum potential is goes down even more, make it to where the easy matches that you play are even easier, which I don't think anybody wants. At least I don't want that. I don't think that would be good for the game, because that'd lead to people feeling even more frustrated with not being able to get as far in the matches, and probably just stop playing. And so I don't think blanket debuffs or blanket nerfs to Swifts would fix anything. If anything, I think it would harm the game, because you would still have it to where teams that are super efficient would still be super efficient, and they'd be able to work past a lot of the penalties. But the teams that aren't as efficient, that are just casually playing, they'd be even more punished for just wanting to play with their friends. And so that's why I think that like the debuffs and all that, and like punishing people for playing with their friends, wouldn't work, and why it wouldn't be a good idea personally. Besides that, I wanted to talk about the mentality of like, if I lose a game, it must have been a Swift, it must have been people playing together, because at the end of the day, Swifts do help, but Swifts only help in the way that like it's not even comms, I don't think, because I've played in Swifts before. I played in sweaty Swifts before, sweaty Swifts, and a lot of the comms in this, even the sweaty Swifts that I play with, it's just like, hey, I have a flashlight, go down in the open, or hey, it's a wraith, or hey, like I'm doing the Jin main building, stuff like that. And so while that stuff can help, it's not anything that is like earth shattering. It's not anything that's like breaking the game. It's just people casually playing with each other. it's not like competitive play of like people calling out, oh, I'm at 15 going to 30, and the number 20 gen is about to be popped in like 0.2 seconds. None of that. That's not in a lot of games. It just isn't. And so the bigger part of Swifts isn't even like the communication factor, in my opinion. It's just having like decent people playing with each other. If you have teammates that you know are good and that you can rely on, then matches will be easier just because you have people that you can rely on. They're decent at the game. Because if you have one person that's bad at the game, they'll drag down everybody else. Because one bad survivor, it can make it to where everybody has to be out of position in order to go for a save, and it can drag down the entire team and cause people to lose hook states that they wouldn't otherwise lose. And so I don't even necessarily think the problem that True Talent is posing is even with Swifts. I think it's just with like decent survivors. Because if the MMR system comes out, because I watched a lot of his VODs, and one thing that he kept on going back to in a lot of the games that he played, to where like he didn't do so well, like people escaped, he would say like, oh, when the MMR system comes in, then like these people will actually see. But the thing is, if an MMR system did get implemented, it wouldn't matter if it was a 4-man Swift, because if there was an actual MMR system, there would be good survivors every match. And so if you have 4 decent survivors, they don't even have to be in comms. They don't even have to be swifting with each other. If you have 4 decent survivors that are playing in the same match against a killer, the killer's going to have a rough time regardless. And so I don't even think necessarily what he's asking for is against Swifts. I don't know why he chose Swifts to target instead of just like decent survivors. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Because if an MMR system does get implemented, like he says that he wants through like Twitch VODs, maybe he doesn't want that, but I've heard him say it through the VODs that I've watched. If it doesn't get implemented, then I'm guessing that it would change like him not liking like how strong survivors are. I don't really know, but I don't think the problem is with Swifts. It's just the strong survivors is more what he's upset with. And even with strong survivors, there is counterplay. There is. Uh, like one of the things I was gonna look at this video. A viewer sent me this video. This is an old footage, as you can tell by the UI. Viewer sent me this footage like 6 or 7 months ago and wanted me to review. And I believe it did review this, but it was just something that I thought I'd pull up, just to like explain over and explain like some like the little things that like people don't even consider when they're playing killer, and they that make them play worse. And so, like one of the things that I will say about like True Talent's footage that I did watch is like there's small moments that like don't really matter. They don't seem like they matter all too much, but they do matter at the end of the day. Oh, that's really thick of a line. One second. So like stuff like if you're at like a seawall, a lot of people call this a seawall. There was like a long wall and there's a short wall and there's a pallet in the middle. If like you're looping this as killer, and say like the survivor, say like you're right here, survivor's right here, if you just keep on following that survivor, by the time they get to this pallet, you're either going to get hit or they throw it in the pallet. One thing I noticed is there'd be sometimes to where he would go the survivor would be right here, and then he would immediately moonwalk to try to mind game them in order to get the hit, and then the survivor would just like stay right here. They just wouldn't move. And so it would turn it to where instead of this being like a 5 second, you either get the hit or get the pallet out, it turns it into a 30-second pallet when this is not a great pallet. This pallet can be very easily forced down. And so it'd make it where instead of it being a 5 second loop, it's a 30-second loop, which 30 seconds, it takes 80 seconds to complete a gen. So that's 10 seconds off of half of a gen getting completed. And so it's like little things like that, which can completely change matches. And then I noticed, and this is a problem that a lot of people have in terms of zoning. Sometimes like a pallet would be thrown down, and instead of zoning a survivor, like say like there's generators on this side of the map, instead of zoning a survivor to go towards the generators to interrupt the generators just by being near them, the pallet would be broken on the other side, and then the person would be zoned away from the rest of the team. And stuff like that leads to inefficiency, it leads to gens getting done, it leads to feelings like you can't do anything about it. When you can, it's just you simply just got to break the pallet on the other side. And that's all you got to do. And so it's like in this match right here, I believe in this match, this person, they're playing Spirit, And one of the problems that this person has in their match, and they're playing like a pretty decent spirit build. They got Pop and Sloppy. I believe this is the old Pop as well, or 60 seconds. I could be wrong. But this person, a lot of the match, and this isn't the first time they did that in this match, but it's just one of the examples that I want to show, where there's no generators that are in this side of the map. And the survivors keep on running to this side of the map because there are no generators. And this person follows the survivors to the area with no generators. And then because they do that consistently throughout the entire match, the gens pop without any really contest. Like they're at one gen right now, and I believe all the gens do get done in this game. And so, just by you simply chasing somebody away from the gens will get done no contest. Instead, you should be trying to force the survivors to the other side of the map where the gens are, so you can not only chase the survivor that you're chasing, but you can potentially like chase multiple people by pushing them off gens and make them be a little bit more hesitant to stick on their gens, especially if you're spirit, because when you're phasing, they don't know if you're coming for them or not. And so, it is things like this to where even with strong builds, you can have rough matches if you just don't position yourself well. If you just don't fall back on the fundamentals of killer and realize like where you need to be, because a lot of killer isn't even necessarily like mechanical gameplay and being skillful. It's about just knowing where you need to be, because I don't consider myself a skillful player. I don't think I have very good mechanical ability, but I think that I'm very knowledgeable on where I need to be, and my internal clock is very in tuned with how like people are playing, like when stuff is going to happen. And so I can identify like where I need to run and like what I need to do in order to recover matches. I'm not saying like True Talent. True Talent obviously can do that as well because he's a pretty good killer. But it's stuff like this to where if you choose to take chases away from the objectives, and if you choose to take chases away from people that are actually doing the objectives, I think I just said the same thing twice. But if you choose to like chase in areas where there's no generators, then you're gonna lose the game. It's just something that's very simple. And there's little things like, oh, like using your power. Like in this game, I believe this person like they use their power, the phase, and a lot of the time like they'll end the phase like 10 seconds after they should have already ended it. Like they'll lose the survivor and then end the phase a long time after, trying to find the survivor again. That's like a misuse of power, and the misuse of power can make it seem like, oh well, there's nothing I can do. They missed because they got corn blinded by the corn dogs, the forbidden corn dogs. But it can make it seem like, oh, you misuse your power, but you don't want to blame the misuse of power on yourself. So it's like, oh, the game went too fast. I can't even make a single mistake. And it's not. It's usually not even a single mistake. It's usually a lot of mistakes. And so I wanted to do something. Long story short, long video short. I wanted to do something in order to help out with people like having rough matches, and ideally try to combat this whole idea that like Swift is OP, needs to be nerfed. People shouldn't be allowed to play with their friends at a high level. They should be penalized for doing that. And so I am here to officially announce a Kill Your Friends event. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I made up a little document just talking all about it. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and we're going to be doing it next Friday, which I believe will be the 11th. Yep, June 11th. And this may be a reoccurring thing that I do. I'm going to take 5 people, whoever wants to sign up, and they can choose to play killer if they want. Otherwise, they'll be playing survivor, and then I will watch their gameplay as it happens, commentate over their gameplay, and try to give little critiques on how to improve people. Because a lot of the time, it's not even necessarily like earth-shattering things that people need to improve on. It's just little things that people need to tweak, and they become a very, very good killer. And so I'm doing this to try to help out people, to try to combat the narrative that like Swift is OP, there's nothing that you can do about it. Because there's most likely going to be pretty decent people that play in this. And I hope that at the very least I can help. If you want to join this, my Discord link is in the description down below. I'll be having a Discord channel in there that you can sign up and you can fill out all of your information if you want to actually try to play in this. I'll be picking people before the next week. And yeah, so if you guys want to try to become a better killer, better survivor player, I'll be critiquing both all the same. Then be sure to join on this. And I hope that like this narrative that like survivor with friends should be punished for playing with each other doesn't really go that far. Because I don't think there's really any reason for it. Because it seems like I said before, just getting upset at people for playing well, not even necessarily for survive with friends. And so I hope that I can help and do a little bit good and try to make the community a better place, hopefully. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you all for watching and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.